Well, I got out of high school in June of 1966. I kind of goofed off during the summer, but I knew the way things were going with Vietnam, it was starting to escalate and everything, 65, 66 and everything. And I figured that if I didn't enlist in the service, I would end up being drafted. There wasn't any real objection, you know. There was the concern because of what was going on. As I mentioned, you know, Vietnam starting to escalate. But we kind of thought, well, you know, at least if I'm enlisting, I'm hopefully getting a choice, and I'm having more options than just ending up going into the Army or the Marine Corps and pretty much knowing, being a ground soldier, that's where I would end up. Where I was at Benoit Air Base, the first post that I stood the year before I got there was the focal point of a major attack on the base, and there were two security policemen that were killed there. I didn't know them because I wasn't there yet, but I knew before going to Vietnam, I knew the stories about that attack during the Tet Offensive and everything. When you get right down to it, the individual soldier that's in the field fighting for his or her life, some of those rules, they want to follow them, but you know, you're trying to stay alive, so you do what you got to do. I was lucky in the sense that I wasn't out in the jungles or the rice paddies or wherever trying to fight enemy soldiers or anything. In some respects, even though as terrible as it was for the guys that were going out into the field and chasing after the enemy or something, it was not terrifying, but it was not an easy feeling of sitting there where we were, because we just had to sit there and wait for something to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen, but you know something's going to happen sometime. So there's all this thing that's always in the back of your mind, not knowing, okay, are they going to shoot rockets at us tonight, or are they going to try and penetrate the perimeter or something of that sort. So there was a stress level that was always there. If there would be a rocket attack on the base or something, as it's going on or immediately after, everybody's joking, okay, well, they missed me this time, or you know, whatever the comments would be or something. And that was just a way of trying to deal with the stress of, you know, yeah, I got lucky, they didn't hit me this time. And then, you know, you would see things that would occur near you, particularly, like I said, on the air bases when there was a rocket attack or something of that sort. You'd see something that would get blown up or something and fairly close to you, and you'd think, gee, they did just miss me. You know, there are a couple of occasions that I recall. I was working one bunker one night that it was probably 100 yards or 150 yards or something away from me. There was a fuel truck that had been parked on the ramp behind where the bunker was at, and the fuel truck was hit by one of the rockets and blown up. As soon as we could, you know, everybody's just kind of, okay, let's go and do what we need to do. These people are going to take care of this guy.
Okay.
We need to get back to our job, get back to our post, and so on. And obviously I don't want to make light of the fact of someone losing their life or anything, but you know, everybody probably, I can't remember specifics about that particular incident, but everybody was probably trying to come up with something, you know, that they could do to kind of joke about the way the night had gone or something, and
yeah, that's
to deal with the stress.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And kind of put it out of your mind. We started doing other things to try and distract ourselves, yes, from thinking about what, you know, had just occurred. The people that we dealt with as far as we knew, were on our side, or we were on their side, however you want to look at it. There were always rumors that some of them probably worked both sides.
Okay.
And there were some instances, or a couple of instances that I know of where we joked often about. There was I guess he would be middle-aged or whatever, Vietnamese male that we would see out on one of the taxiways next to the runway or something every couple days or so, and he's just out there sweeping, and everybody kind of joked, well, he's probably not sweeping, he's probably counting steps and turning the information over to the Viet Cong, who are going to be shooting rockets at us tomorrow night or something. He basically, he's figuring out where they need to aim or something. I'm sure that happened in some cases. I've got no evidence that that's what it was, but that was kind of the joke that went on, because we were always seeing the same guy was kind of doing the same stuff in different places. The other people, one of the things that struck me and I talked about with people was that, I was there in 1969, 1970. The Vietnamese people, whether it's what was considered the North or the South, they'd been living with conflict for most of them their entire lives. That's all they'd known, was there was some battle going on between two different factions as to who was going to control the country and everything. So I think that the feeling that I had in a lot of respects was kind of sorry that they were enduring everything that they had, and it, in a way, it didn't seem as though things were ever going to change for them. Mm-hmm. Well, with Vietnam, the idea, and whether it was right or whether it was successful or not, was the idea of trying to prevent communism from spreading. As to the individual soldier or something, when you're there, the purpose is to stay alive and keep your buddies alive if you can. I don't know that people really, when you're in the field, you really pay attention or care about the politics that may have caused you to be where you're at. I feel proud of my service.
Why?
Because I was doing the job that I was supposed to be doing, and I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't see anybody that did anything wrong. I know that there were a lot of people that claimed that our people were doing horrendous things, and there's some isolated incidents that people tried
what
making
do you mean
something.
You did something you're supposed to do? You did not do anything wrong?
Well, looking at it from the standpoint of the people that protest the troops, mm-hmm. that I went and did the job that I was asked to do. As things progressed with Vietnam, after I came home from Vietnam, or about the time I was coming home from Vietnam, when there were students and other people here in the States that were really starting to protest the war, and a lot of those people were taking their frustration with the politics, I think, out on the soldiers. I didn't experience it personally, but I know of some people that you will probably hear from people that will say, I came back from Vietnam and I got off the plane at the airport and people were spitting at me and they were calling me names and all of this other stuff and everything. I didn't specifically experience that, but I did get to a point after coming back that with the exception of family and some very close friends, it was many, many years before anybody knew that I served in Vietnam or even served in the military, because it was not popular in those days. Ironically, in some respects, there's been a turnaround, and a lot of us that are veterans, particularly of Vietnam, have a concern about the fact that there are people that are going around these days that are claiming that they're combat veterans and they've got all kinds of medals and decorations and everything, and most of those people never served in the military, and it's kind of, it's hard to explain how it affects me thinking about it, but these people were probably people during Vietnam were probably protesting what was going on, but it kind of hits close to home for me because I have an ex-brother-in-law
Okay.
that was one of those people that claimed he was in special ops, and that he was captured, he was held as a prisoner of war, but he escaped, but his buddy was killed, and he's got all these medals and everything. And I actually ended up doing some research and found out that yes, he did serve in the military, but he never left the States. So he was not in Vietnam. He was not captured, was not a prisoner of war, did not escape. All sorts of stuff, you know. So there's a bunch of these people that are out there. To me, the idea of the people, particularly people that may have received the Medal of Honor, or you know, some of the immediately lower medals, Air Force Cross or Bronze Star or Silver Star or something of that sort, I think the fact of those people being considered heroes is the perception of the people that witnessed whatever it was that they did to receive those medals. I don't think that that's something, particularly when in the heat of battle or something, that's the intent on the part of the people that get those medals. And I think that, you know, their idea is they're doing what they need to do to stay alive themselves and or protect other people that they're with, or to rescue someone. And I doubt seriously that, you know, that they're going out there and doing that, whatever their actions may be, with the idea of getting a medal.
Exactly.
And as I mentioned, I think that the fact of being considered a hero, I don't think that they would consider themselves heroes. I think that that's the perception of the people that observed whatever the act was. And actually, it's an interesting dynamic in a sense that I belong to Vietnam Veterans of America, a national organization, and then I belong to a specific chapter here in California and so on. But the organization is open to membership for people that actually served in Vietnam, or people that served during Vietnam but may not have served in country, and they've got different criteria as to what, you know, membership is for either of those two groups. And we've had a number of people that have said that they felt guilty because they served during Vietnam, but they didn't actually go to Vietnam, and they felt guilty themselves about being a member of the organization. And kind of the way I've approached it is that, you know, it wasn't necessarily their choice. You know, they volunteered or they got drafted, but the government, the military, made the decision as to where they were going to go. Kind of my soapbox. I can't stand it, you know. And I, you know, with my stuff, I was there. I didn't do anything spectacular. I did my job. There were people that did some really amazing and heroic things. But that's what frustrates me about some of these people that, and they call it stolen valor today. Some of the people that did
Or
not go to
worse,
Vietnam may have that feeling that they don't feel that they necessarily rate the respect that the people that actually served in country get or deserve. And you know, and again, when I talk to some of those people, I just try to make sure that, you know, the message gets across that, you know, you may have wanted to go, but Uncle Sam decided, okay, instead of going to Vietnam, you're going to go to Germany or something, or you're going to go wherever, or you're not going to leave the States. You're going to stay in the States. But that's a decision that, you know, that the military made, not the individual.